Hello, everyone. We are on our November 3rd, it is November 3rd event for State of the Association, and we have a neat little article to go over today in our question and answer session. But first, we'll do our basic housekeeping. We've got, let me type in the chat for those watching. Welcome. So, uh, we've got our events to go over and things like that. So first off, we've got our event. We have an event coming up. The Eden Wellness Alliance does. It's going to be on November 12th. And if you tuned into the CRN, you've known about this for a little bit. But it's going to be the event is titled Emergency Preparedness the Healthy Way. So if you know someone that likes to, that wants to make sure they're ready for a disaster, or if they need to evacuate for some reason or go someplace, or even if it's just for something like tornadoes or something, or events like that, this is a great way and a great event to come to so that they can get an idea of the basic guidelines that are really good to keep in mind when you're doing that type of stuff. So I encourage people to come to this one simply because it is well worth your time. It is well worth your time to be able to get that information and to know what to do. And this is going to get you to that government recommended, it'll get you well prepared for the government recommended 72-hour events time period that you need to have prepared for. Because the CDC does recommend that. The official government does recommend that you have that 72-hour preparedness. We'll get you past that. This will give you information to get you past that and even more prepared, better prepared. So that's something to come to. It's going to be at the main branch of the library here in Fort Smith, Arkansas, from 10 to noon on the 12th of November. So that will be when that one is happening. I was asked to mention there is a doTERRA event on November 15th at the Egg and I. It's going to be starting at 11. I suggest getting there at about 10:30, 10:45 so you can order your food. And it's kind of like a brunch or lunch event where we have, we attend, the Eden Wellness Alliance attends, because we use essential oils with our clients, but we also want to make sure that we like to educate as well. And we've done a few times where we've had that. So, and when we've been the key speaker there. So please come to those. They are excellent for getting questions answered and having just a good visit and time with people that are also interested in natural health. So I suggest coming to that if you can. Second thing that we usually do after we do our events is I want to kind of mix things up a little bit this time. I'm not seeing any engagement in the chat yet, so I'm going to instead of having us do the Bible verse at the end that we always do, I'm going to do it right now because it kind of goes along with what we are talking about today in our question and answer session, or in this case, the article that we're going to go over, which is about your bones and emotions. So the verse that I'm looking at that kind of spurred this on when I was doing my studies is Psalm 32. If you went there, you could go to verse 3. It says there, when I kept silence, my bones waxed old through my roaring all the day long. And this may not seem very informative or educational to some people, but when I saw that, I'm like, yes, that's actually scientifically proven that your bones get worse with high stress. And that's what we're talking about today. The link to this article that we're going over, which is at saveourbones.com, is in the link in the description, or if you're watching from our actual website, it is also going to be found in the post link. It says click here for original article, and it's hyperlinked in there. So If you have any questions, if you're watching, you have any questions pop up about this, you can put them in the chat and I'll be checking it every once in a while. But going specifically to the article itself, it's titled "Confirmed: Stress Reduces Bone Density," and the main bolded thing in the very first item is, we can't control the wind, but we can adjust our sails, and that's something they're talking about with referring to the stress and things. So this article is written by Vivian Goldschmidt, MA, and it discusses here just briefly that over your lifespan, you're going to reduce, your bone mass naturally reduces through aging. If you're aging, your bone mass is technically reducing. But there are things you can do to slow down or reverse that type of event, and it can be done naturally. And I'm glad that they point that out also. Stress quickly evaporated once I discovered the truth about osteoporosis and that it can be reversed naturally. And then they have a hyperlink there to another article, which we may go over some other time. It comes here, and it's the first header for their paragraph is "Excess stress hurts our health and our bones." And they give a little bit of a couple paragraph. Well, it's technically one paragraph if you grouped it all together. But it talks about how stresses change our body's mechanics, how it's functioning, whether that's mental, emotional, or physical stress. All of them are going to change the way our body is functioning. All of those things are technically stress. Now, we're not trying to differentiate at this point in this discussion eustress, that's EUSTRESS, from regular stress. There are two types that your body adjusts for, but your body sees all stress as equally important. The thing that we're looking at here, the thing that they kind of bring up, is they talk about how those stressful situations are going to cause symptoms in the body, like elevated blood pressure and glucose, digestive issues, cardiovascular symptoms, and compromised immune system if prolonged. The hormone, which they talk about next, study proves cortisol reduces bone density, and they correctly point out, and rightly so, that cortisol, which is the stress hormone, promotes those changes in the body, but it also promotes the consumption of minerals and building blocks that are necessary to keep your body's pH in check. They don't specifically mention that part about the pH, but the higher your cortisol levels in your blood, the more, let me give it to you how they said it. To give you one example, a study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism has shown greater bone mineral density loss when higher cortisol levels are found in the blood. And this is because stress, they don't mention this, but this is because that stress causes your body's pH to change because of all the cortisol happening, all the different fight or flight hormones that get enacted when stress is enacted. Then your body has to keep that balanced, and it does that any way it can. Your body doesn't care if you survive to tomorrow, it just cares about the next millisecond. Your body doesn't care about tomorrow, it cares about the next millisecond. Just survive now, right now. That's all it cares about. So even if like what we see this is proving, that even if that means that you have to steal from the bones to keep the blood pH proper, which is kind of what's happening. It's not all of what's happening, but it's kind of what's happening here. It's a factor in it. When you have that heightened cortisol in the blood, that is naturally going to raise the pH of the blood. It's naturally going to raise the pH of the entire system to have stress. So your body has to use minerals to lower that pH level in order to keep your blood between 7.35 and 7.45. It has 1 point of variance that it can have. And the more you tilt it toward the 4.5, the more it has to tilt backwards towards the 3.5. And you do that, like we said, by using minerals from your bones or that you consumed in your food and stored in your bones. Things like calcium, in several of its forms, are used to lower your to monitor your pH and its use by the body. Let me go ahead and finish up their article here. Psychology and sociology and physiology, excuse me, are linked. So psychology and physiology are linked. I like the quote they do. The ancient Latin quote, mens sana est corpore, I'm not sure how that one said. Sano, a sound mind in a healthy body. They are linked together. So this definitely sinks in what we do here at the Eden Wellness Alliance. It blends well with the information that we're given. Learning how to understand the differences between your stresses and how to appropriately respond to them when they come up is going to be probably the biggest benefit you can do for yourself when it comes to monitoring your health. Because you can eat right, you can exercise, but if your body's running on defense mode all the time, it's not going to matter how good your diet is, and it's not going to matter how big your muscles are or how lean you are or how fat you are. If you don't monitor your stress, if you don't get your body out of defense mode, then all of that is just going to wear down your genetic potential. There are people who live a long time just surviving, but that's not what humans are meant to do to reach their genetic potential. Their genetic potential can be reached by thriving, and humans are designed to thrive. We're designed to survive, but we're meant to thrive. And when you're looking at your health and you're saying, okay, what is something that I really need to work on first? It's if I can get anybody to take away from this idea that the importance, for your bone's sake, let's just say, for your bone's sake, to adjust and properly respond to emotional stresses, that's going to be the thing. When you can start to learn to respond to emotional distresses, then your body is going to be so much better. When you learn to appropriately work through things or move through different obstacles that are set before you without losing your composition and cool, as it's kind of talked about sometimes by people, then that's going to be what's best for you. That's going to help you the most. So this article is a little bit shorter than last time, but it's still given us quite a bit of information to comb through. Again, I do like that they use this. They did list their references, profiles on endogenous circulating cortisol and bone mineral density in healthy elderly men, was from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism that they were talking about. And that article is actually from September 1st, 1999. See, this information, we are over 10 years, we're almost 10 years. No, we're over 10 years past 1999. I had to do, just getting mixed up math in my head. We're over 10 years away from that. It's been a decade since that has been put out, and you just don't hear about this type of stuff. That's important. It's important for us to know these things. Don't be afraid to try and figure out natural health ways to work on your body. You can improve your health of your bones by actually going and looking for things to do. Replacing those minerals. There is a reason I suggest that all of my clients have trace minerals, because you just don't get them in your system as much. You don't get them in your diet, excuse me, as much as you used to, because of just farming practices and not caring for the soil as well as we should, and things like that. Because of that, and the way we breed our grains and breed our different and culture up our different plants and things like that, you just lose a lot of the efficacy and the broader spectrum wellness that you can find in more natural plants. There was just the other day, just yesterday, I think it was, CBS News or ABC or one of those big ones talked about um, ancient grains and how they tend to be better for you, and they've got more protein and more this and more that. America is obsessed with protein for some reason, but um, yes, those ancient grains, you can totally live on those ancient grains. In fact, if you're vegan, you better be looking at ancient grains like quinoa and stuff like that, because you're going to find a lot readier access to B vitamins and things you're missing, like iron and B's and stuff like that, and protein that you can miss if you're vegan. So those are definitely things to look at. They're just better for you, not because I want them to be, but because just science shows that they make better nutritional food. They're better for you. So think about that. Look at that. Look at what you're wanting to accomplish with your healthcare plan, with what you're doing, how you're caring for your health and wellness. Are you addressing the fact that your emotions are going to affect how well your bones are? We underestimate sometimes when we're younger the importance of our bones, but you know, when you look at the death tolls and things like that of people that have gone on in age, and you look at, well, what is a big killer of the elderly? Well, it's not necessarily a breakage of a bone, but what happens after. For example, using a statistic I'm more familiar with, those hip fractures. You break your hip. Well, that's an important bone. You have to let that rest. You have to let your femur rest a lot. Yeah, if you have a fracture in your rotator cuff on your hip, you're going to have probably, you'll have weeks, but definitely you're looking at possibly months, depending on how well you heal. If you're a healthy person, you can get up and around. If you're healthy and you got really good genetics and stuff like that, and are pretty robust in your abilities of your healing factors and stuff, then you could get up and be up and going in some weeks. But it could take months for someone who's elderly that's lost that mobility to get better, and they may never get better. That's a real thing, because they didn't take care of their body beforehand. They may never get better. And going back to what I was getting to with this example of hip fractures, it is hip fractures that lead to the most deaths. When you're looking at all the different fractures that can happen to someone who's elderly, hip fractures are the ones that happen a lot and are most fatal. Not because they hurt themselves coming down on the hip and its breakage, but because after they break their hip, that big long recovery time, they usually don't get better. It's that simple. It's not because they um, it's not because they get hurt on the way down. It's not because they get thrown around in an ambulance. They break their hip. They never get back up walking again because their body's not suited for it. They didn't take care of it in the front, so they don't get to have the benefits going down the road. So I encourage you, everybody, to address their emotional states in a positive way. I encourage you to look at the different avenues and methods you can use to naturally improve your bone density. That's things like proper nutrition, managing that emotional stress, learning to not just manage it, but thrive in stressful situations, which we can help you with. All of these things we can help you with. And making sure that you're at least supplementing in some way the nutrients that you're losing when you go through those events. At least give yourselves minerals that you're not getting, like the trace minerals or things like that, because you're not going to be able to function properly without them. Your body will, you will lose bone density. And the more stressful you are, the more bone density you lose. So think about that. But I am Adam L. Spain with the Eden Wellness Alliance, health and wellness the way God intended. All natural, non-invasive approaches to your health, wealth, and relationships. Have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Oh, and please do come to the events we have announced. Thank you.